Kimseyi Geride Bırakma Film Günleri söyleşisine hoş geldiniz.
So I would like to welcome you all to the film festival talks, which is within the scope of Leave No One Behind. And this is an organization held for a healthier and fairer health services for individuals. And this was one of the activities conducted within the scope of the European Union project, which is funded by the European Union and Turkish government. And you can also follow the films from the web address. And also this year, we are going to pay attention to the healthcare professionals, because in 2021, we would like to kindly express our greetings to all those healthcare workers. And for the refugees and migrants health services, and these activities have focusing on how all these activities are very significant for them. And today, we are going to discuss the film, and the director, Mr. Wolfgang Fischer, is together with us. First of all, we would like to welcome you, and we are going to have different speakers. We have very valuable experts today with us. For example, Dr. Ela Kelepir. She is the chief physician in Refugee Health Training Project, and she's also an active physician in Ankara, Altındağ Training Center, unanswered, and also he is a director of the European Union project, graduated from the International Relations in Met University and conducted various European Union projects, and now working as the director in one of the significant projects for the refugees and migrants called Sıhhat. So he's responsible for that project. And we have Çetin Doğan as one of our speakers. He is from WHO Turkey office and responsible from the migration, and especially for the migrants and asylum seekers. He focuses on the activities, especially for the health services provided for them. Now, I would like to give floor to Wolfgang Fischer, Styx, for this movie. Actually, we can see there is an individual traveling with a yacht, and we can also see that there is a young lady and coming across with the refugees, and then all those unbelievable aids experiences, and this is also the feeling that they feel. First of all, it is a multi-layered, and also it is very sensitive in terms of conscious moral compass. So how did you select this idea, and how did you realize this movie?
So thank you for this wonderful invitation that I can talk to you, and thank you that you have chosen Styx to watch it and to discuss it. And we started to work on this topic in 2008. So that was the main idea coming in our minds, that we wanted to make a movie about the tragedy, what's going on at the border at the European Union. And we choose that we show as a main character, Rike, as an emergency doctor. So she knows how help functions. She's a professional helper. And you see how help functions in Europe, in the middle of Europe, in the beginning of the movie, you see the accident, and all of a sudden help is coming in between minutes. And to show up the contrast, what's going on in Europe concerning professional help, and what's going on in the ocean at the border, the European Union. And we wanted to show up the contrast. And that's the reason why we choose an emergency doctor, and we choose the disaster, what is going on at the borders, to give awareness about the problem, what human beings suffer in these conditions. And we wanted to tell the story from our point, from the Western point of view, how we react as the European community, as European people on this tragedy.
Evet, teşekkür ederim. Şimdi madem
Thank you.
şöyle ana hatlarıyla filme
So these
istiyorum.
were the outlines of the movie. So now let's come back to Turkey. And what did you think when you watched the movie? First of all, I would like to start with Dr. Ela Kelepir, because you're also working in a refugee health training center. You're also an active physician, so you have watched the movie. What did you feel? Have you felt impressed? I mean, what did you find from the movie?
Sağlığına başlamadım. Ben de
Of
mezun
course, I
olduktan
did not start working
bu ülkenin birinci ve ikinci
in the field of refugees. So I worked in the primary healthcare and secondary healthcare services.
10 senelik kısmı
And for the
olarak geçti.
10 years of my experience, I worked as emergency physician. So, you know, we have 112 call center hotline, and then there could be the emergency case and then intervention during the emergency. We are used to that. I mean, I'm also used to that case. But then, actually, with the name, you know, Styx, like it means like hell river in mythology. So ocean turns into the hell river. So there is a struggle.
Dürtünün bir
So we
hekimin
can say that it's like the aim is to save life. It doesn't matter which color, which race, it doesn't matter where, who, languages that is not important. So the first idea is to survive lives. If there is a person in danger and you want to save lives, so this is a lifestyle. This is the opinion of the physician. That's why, first of all, I can say that this was very identical for me. And there is a 14-year-old child, and that child can speak English.
göç
And
sağlığı tecrübemizde
for example, for our experiences, I cannot speak Arabic.
sağlığına
For this reason, when I start in migration and when I start working together with Syrian migrants,
dil bariyeri de eklenseydi
you know, we had the language barrier. And then I try to imagine if there would be language barrier, then what would happen? So I was
hissine o işte
like feeling in a bottleneck, you know, no one there, you're alone. And I felt that sense. And then I thought, what would happen if that person will not be able to speak English? They're going to speak like with some language, sign language. So yes, that's a very good point, because in such cases, and also for all general conditions for the first intervention, organization is very significant. We can understand that. And when I talk about organization, Sahat comes to my mind. Mr. Inanç, what did you feel when you watched the movie? What did you think about the movie? First of all, when I watched the film, as of the 5th minute of the film, I was really impressed for all the seconds. I'm not a healthcare worker, but I'm working in the field of migration and refugee. So we provide services for the migrants, refugees. So we know the problems experienced in our country, in our region. As you have stated, with less dialogue, the story was explained very well. You know, the dilemma, the conflict, the main character, right or Rike, I'm not sure about the name of the main character, but all those dilemmas, all those problems, I felt them while I was watching the movie. Of course, for example, I felt their desperate situation. First of all, there was a journey, and it was not like a daily performance. This was out of daily work of a physician or of a healthcare worker. This is a very long journey, and this was prepared for a very long time. You know, you can see very difficult conditions. She knows what to do in very harsh conditions. For example, there could be thunderstorms, so well-prepared journey. But there are people who are in need of help, and then this person goes back to the role of physician. This person was an adventurer, but then turns directly back to being a physician. You know, there is the Coast Guard. There were some conversations with the Coast Guard, and Coast Guard says like, don't come close. There could be some worst cases. You are alone. There could be the security problem. When you think of all these, so there are different laws, different rules beyond the experiences. But you know, in the film, this was between, I mean, the conflict between the rules, laws, and the humanitarian approach. Because Kingsley character reached to the ship, and this was a 14-year-old child. This person could be another person like me, an adult, a big man, and then there could be a threat for the security. And then this person, Rike, was in the sea. He tried to push him to the sea, then he decided not to. So these conflicts, because we know the rules and the humanitarian values, occupational values, this was the desperate situation, dilemma between all of them. So there was also another commercial ship, there was the captain, there was the contractual conditions. For this reason, there was the desperation, that we felt that desperation when he talks to, you know, because of his occupation, we have felt that dilemma on the radio telephone. So from this perspective, from the beginning of the film until the end, there were humanitarian values, and there were the rules set for the security of the individuals, and there was the dilemma between two of them. That's why I would like to congratulate Wolfgang. You question yourself when you watch the film, because when you examine, you know, there were too many warnings from the Coast Guard. There could be a communicable disease, there could be the security risk, there or there, and people look at the hope, as the survival with a ship coming closer to them. So, of course, the warnings should be done because it's the responsibility of the Coast Guard. But, you know, the physician, the clinicians, they have more emotions. They have professional aspect, but at the same time, they have the feelings. Yes, we will continue. You know, you feel in the middle of all these, because then you put yourself into their food and then you say, what shall I do? Now I will give floor to Çetin Dikmen. You know, we can feel that desperation, right? Because when we look from an outside point of view, you know, that feeling on the face of that little boy, the pray in a different language that we cannot understand. Have you ever witnessed for those experiences, those desperations? I'm sure you also share such feelings. Yes, Miss Alin, actually, the most striking part, you know, the movie was 1 hour 20 minutes, and you can see the reality of migration. Migration is the reality of inequality. There could be positive effects, but throughout the history we have this inequality, and you can see that inequality. There could be the person, powerful, professional lady, and then there are people, and there is an individual, for example, the character, who is defenseless. And especially, there are 3 different sources for the migration to Europe from the northern side and 2 other sides. And one of the risky migration is from the seaway. And when we consider that in our country, you know, there are ships sank in Black Sea region. You know, it's so dangerous, but they take that risk. We have some very unfortunate cases, and these are all from the perspective of inequality. And you know, we have the law of maritime, and there is also the captain. I remember the conversation between Rike and the captain. Because of the maritime law, first of all, there will be help. Okay, you need to focus on saving lives. But unfortunately, there are some spaces, there are some places where governments cannot reach, cannot solve the problems. Professional qualification is really high for that lady. And, you know, we can see, we witness all those experiences. We read on the newspapers. All those operations are really difficult because there should be the stabilization, there will be the rescuing, and it's really difficult to intervene. You know, there should be some preparation. We have seen all those scenes in the film, and this was very real. And there were different differences which are very real. For example, psychosocial difficulties which are experienced by the migrants after saved. They felt that anger. This was also reflected because, you know, unemployment is not lost. There will be unemployment, and also there are some brothers, friends, sisters in the ship to be rescued. So all the reality is in front of us, and we have seen that we have different places, and there could be difficulties when this is very striking, I think. Thank you. You have expressed it very well. Now I would like to go back to Mr. Wolfgang once again. How did you do the research? I mean, it's a fiction, it's not a documentary, so you need to make a kind of research. But, you know, this was like a documentary because it was very real and this was appreciated. So how did you make the research? What kind of a research did you do? I mean, how did you develop that process? I mean, how did you develop that documentary part of the film?
So it was a very profound research we did for the movie, because for us it was very important to talk to a lot of people, also to migrants, to people who did the dangerous crossing over the ocean, to get really a point of view, what's going on these ships, what's the danger, what's the stories behind why people go on these boats. And that was, for us, it was such a tremendous journey to talk to a lot of people and to get to know what's going on, because we didn't want, I mean, it's a fiction film, but for us it was so much important to give the right point of view, to avoid every cliche and not to place it in a normal fiction film. For us it was a very important journey, and I have to say, everybody you see in the movie, they come from their real professions. So the fire workers in the beginning, the rescue teams are real rescue teams. The people on the boat are really migrants. They did a dangerous crossing over the ocean. We talked, we lead interviews with them, and it was such a need to get to know everything what's going on, also from the governments. In every angle we wanted to get informations, and especially also the Coast Guard ship. You see in the end of the movie, these are Coast Guards from the Maltese Coast Guards, as real soldiers. They go on rescue missions, and to get also their point of view, how it feels being out on rescue missions, because for them, they also want to help. But normally they have to wait for the green light of the European Union to go out on rescue mission. And that's a very complex theme. And we wanted to break it down on this two-person have a different point of view of paradise. One is going from north to south. She does it as a leisure adventure idea. And there is this boy, he wants to go from south to north. And he has a different point of view, point of paradise. And they meet in the middle of the ocean on eye level. and to give them the equal position, and not it's these poor people from South and we have our main character. For us, it was so important that they're both on eye level. And these two persons, they have a different point of view and a different idea of paradise. And for us, it was really collect much information and to digest it on the main core of the story. And that was for us the main core of the story. But we needed all this information from people who are involved in this mystery.
Bir doktor karakter en başından
And the
beri
doctor character, I think you had this doctor character in your mind as of the beginning, right? Because, you know, this doctor had a very solid power. This person was strong. We have seen that person swam in the ocean. This was like swimming in mythology, in the river. This was like very strong. So, and then there was this person was like undefeated, and then there was another character and he was in need. So they were two different opposite characters, and it was a very dramatic conflict element. So how did you manage to create those two characters?
Yeah, on the one hand, as you said, we have our emergency doctor. She's a professional helper. She has sworn the Hippocratic oath, so it's her duty to help, and she has to do it. There is no choice. If somebody is in danger, it's your duty as an emergency doctor to help. But the first rule of an emergency doctor, first you have to look after your life first, and then you can go into action. And it's this double-bind situation we were interested in, because maybe you need more characters like our main character. If you have got more Rike, so to say, then you could go and save all the people, but it's too much for one single person. So we need much, much more, and to find a solution together. And that was the idea. And on the other hand, you have this boy who is in need, and also with Gideon, the main character, the boy, we did a casting in Nairobi, in the slums of Nairobi, because we wanted to get a person for this movie, a boy for this movie who knows Africa very well, and not do a casting all around in Europe and find Gideon, this character. And that was so much important that we went there, and we had a collaboration with director very famous in Germany called Tom Tikva, and they have got an organization in Nairobi which is called One Fine Day, and they work with the children in the slums of Nairobi, and they build schools, and in these schools these children, they can explore their creativity because there are no playgrounds and nothing there. And we went in the school and we did the casting there, and there we found Gideon, and it was important to get also this situation in these places into the movie, and not just play poor boys and put him on the journey. That was also important for us, and to show up the Western point of view, the contrast between the Western point of view and from people in help who really try to survive and try to find their idea of paradise and to get to a safe place. And that was the aim of the movie.
Ela Hanım,
Miss Ella, as a physician, of course, the first thing comes to the mind of a physician is the Hippocrates words. So, you know, there are international rules, but even if there are no international rules, as a physician, in such a case, if you're going to make a comparison, what would you think? I mean, personal, institutional, you can answer this question in both sides, but you know, we have these divine sacred rules of being a physician. Actually, this separates us from all other professions, because we do not make any discrimination for the individuals. Who, where, when, it doesn't matter. We only focus on to save life. It doesn't matter who this person is. The important thing is to see a life there, a living person. So the first thing is to save life. You know, when you graduate from a faculty of medicine and then if you work as a physician of emergency service, then, you know, there was an emergency physician. In case of an emergency, in case of a disaster, because this was a disaster, so how are you going to approach and how are you going to receive the maximum productivity from myself, because I am alone. There is no one to help me, to assist me. You know, there were two different characters. One is from the mythological character coming out of the river, very strong, undefeated. But the third character is the others that are invisible. There were the sounds of the others, the Coast Guard, the rules set by the countries, or another boat, the captain of another ship. So there are others. We have seen all others as the third characters, and saving life, you know, they were between saving life and the physician. For this reason, the contrast was others in this film. And the problematic issue that we come across all the time is others. You know, this was the problem for us because you try to save life, you are willing to save life of a person, but if you're going to be alone, you're going to save the life of that person, but always you're going to see others around you. Unfortunately, this makes our lives difficult. This makes our job very difficult. This makes us different compared to others, but sometimes people do not understand you. You know, they're always warning, Coast Guard, warning all the time. So, okay, you are going to help these people, you want to help them, but your boat is not going to take all of them. Then you are going to sink. So this was like, first, your safety, your security. Don't go, don't come close to that place. So this is like the barrier between the saver, the doctor, and to save lives. Then the rest, they died, and this person can only save a single person. And
Botum batıyor.
she said, what? My own boat was sinking. My yacht, actually, my yacht was sinking. And even if, and she doesn't want others to reach her. So she shut down everything. So she got rid of all others. Then others came for her to save her. For this reason, this was the most striking part, the end, the striking final, the selection of a doctor, emergency doctor, very striking. And also another person, a 14-year-old boy, and the color of the skin is also different. Selection of such, I mean, you know, the other in quotation mark. So selection of such a kid, very striking. And the most striking, the most invisible part was others. And at the end of the film, as they said, they did not go for saving the lives. They just went for saving the life of the physician. So, physician, the lady, I remember, yes, I remember there was, she helped, but she didn't swim all the time. First of all, she sent the lifesaver, life ring, I remember. And then, you know, that island, it was artificial forest, it was artificial jungle. This was the explanation. So she was planning to go there. This was the dream, but she was just right in the middle of the jungle. She experienced it. She experienced the real one. Actually, it was not artificial. It was like a hell, which, yeah, perfect explanation. Thank you. And now I would like to go back to Çetin, Mr. Çetin. when the issue is migrants, of course, we have the urging of protection. This was the case in your profession because you focus on protection, you focus on saving, you focus on treating in your project.
Sıkıntılar da oluyordu.
I'm sure there are problems that you come across. Yes, you stated right, because this was one of the issues explained in the film. First of all, it's really difficult to save lives in the middle of the ocean. You need to have the profession, the qualification, and also the equipment. If you're going to have some insufficiencies, then you're going to have major causes and results. And Rike was saving Kingsley and physically qualified, and it was very difficult, and it was a very harsh condition. There could be thermal blanket, and the profession, if there won't be any thermal blanket or the profession, you know, maybe this was a very difficult situation because this person was in the middle of the ocean. So sea, you know, there is no stability. This was not like the island because you can have the ambulances. There are multi difficulties in the middle of the ocean. So you need to provide service in very difficult conditions. And one of the components in such cases is the health information systems. So you need to receive information and then you share this information with coast guards. This was shared, but this information was not used. Actually, this person received this information in a very difficult situation, but this was not used with Coast Guard. You know, there was a route for the Dream Island, but then with that booklet, she used that notebook with all those notes. Then she made the calls for help. But saving, rescuing is the beginning. After rescuing, there will be various social, psychosocial services, and there should be harmony. I mean, there should be the adaptation process. There should be too many things to do, and these should be done on time. And at the end of the film, you know, we need to understand that all these things to be done in a timely manner, and then this will be more effective, and then more people will be saved. And another important issue in the film, you know, we are in the middle of the year 2021, and once again, we have understood that the professional healthcare workers are very important. They were very competent and they could have very successful stories in very difficult conditions. This was very well explained in the film. If there would be another person rather than a physician, maybe we could come across with such a case, and it's real difficult, and it's really difficult to save life in the middle of the ocean. Then social services, providing social support for those individuals after saving lives. So multi-sectoral, multi-performance is very important, and all the gaps were reflected very well. So there were different professionals on site, Coast Guard, etc. So thank you very much. Mr. Inanç, you graduated from international relations. So this is your expertise. Maybe you are going to look from a bird view. I mean, maybe you are going to see different pillars because you're working together with the physicians, you're working together with the migrations, you're working together with the governments and states. So it's a very comprehensive operation. As you have stated, in the film, you know, okay, we are talking, this was like a story, it's fiction, and the messages were given through fiction, but we have understood that they're very effective. But when we come back to the real life, when we come back to our experiences in our daily lives, you know, they were all similar to the ones that we have seen in the film. There is a problem. And there is a target group in need, and the needs are identified, and we need to provide services in a planned and organized manner. This was the aim. This is the aim. You know, this is a very sacred, holy service. providing accommodation, providing health services, providing social services. While reaching these objectives, of course, there are rules to be fulfilled. Even if you set a target, for example, I've been conducting a fund which is provided by European Union. Of course, our objectives are not only related to the European Union, but there will not be any objections by the side of the donors like EU, and we try to fulfill our objectives. However, there are rules and criteria to use all those funds provided by EU. Even if you set your targets as humanitarian, these rules, criteria come forward. For example, there's a financial regulation of the EU. And also, if you conduct operation in the Ministry of Health, there are different legislations, regulations, rules, laws to be fulfilled. So you need to follow them. First of all, you set your goals. Yes, we all agree on your objectives. Even if you need to fulfill those objectives, we have the criteria. Even if, we have seen them in the film, the maritime law, the warnings, the rules stated by the Coast Guard. And also, still,
kendi karasularımızda yaşadığımız, işte mesela Ege Denizi'nde yaşanan.
For example, in Aegean Sea, we have experienced some cases. For this reason, in Aegean Sea, for example, pushback method used for the refugees, actually this cannot be accepted. It's really unbelievable, but it is still implemented by the Coast Guard of Greece. So, pushing back all those refugees or to pierce, to prick all their boats. This is not acceptable throughout the history, but still in this century, we come across with such practices. And we have a readmission, reacceptance agreement with EU. So first of all, we accept all those refugees in our reception centers. After the examination, there could be criminal research. We send all those refugees to the return centers. Then the rest, they were registered by the Directorate General of Migration, and then they are able to receive the services for accommodation, health, education. And the project that I have stated was focusing on the services to be provided and at the right level in Turkey. So this project aims to provide all those services for the migrants. But as I have said, we have limitations with the criteria, rules, laws. While I was watching the film, actually we all agreed on an idea or on an objective. But first, we need to review all those regulations, all those legislations, because, we all agree on some of these ideas. They are holy, they are sacred. So we need to reflect them on the regulations, on the legislation, because sometimes we pay high attention to those legislative documents and we forget our objectives. That's bureaucracy. First, we set the regulation provision. This provision can also be changed by the authority. So we need to identify the needs of the target group, and then accordingly, the outputs, regulations, legislations of those institutions can be changed within the scope of this framework. Thank you very much. Now, for the final words, of course, I would like to give floor to Mr. Wolfgang. As a film critic, I'm not sure if I'm right, but the most important critics was paying attention to different humans. You know, it was like the Darwin's Ascension Island. So this was a very long journey from the monkeys as of the beginning of the human beings until the end of. So this was like the survival of fittest, because we all know about that. So there was a criticism for maybe survival of fittest, and then maybe you want to say a couple of words about that.
Yeah, we had a different approach concerning Darwin because of Ascension Island. And in Ascension Island, that was in former times, it was a volcano island. There was nothing. There was no trees, nothing. And Darwin started an experiment, and he brought different plants from all over the world to this island. And now there is this artificial jungles. So there's species growing side by side each other, which they don't belong to each other in their normal surroundings. So it's a kind of paradise. It's an artificial paradise, and it would be possible that different species live together on a place. And that's the reason why we use this idea, because we like this idea so much, that all different species can grow peacefully side by side. And that's the reason it's a different approach on Darwin. It's not a Darwin we wanted to make a theme out of it about the survival of the fittest. It's just this idea of paradise, which we like a lot, and we wanted to have it in the movie.
Evet.
Okay.
Peki çok teşekkür
So thank you very much. So I would
Thank
like to
you.
thank all the contributors, all the participants here, and we would like to thank the ones who already watched the movie and the ones who is going to watch the movie. I hope you will enjoy. So this is the end of our talks, and thank you very much for listening to us. And our film festival is going to be held between 5th of April and 11th of April. So we are not going to leave no one behind. Thank you.